The following recording is a live Sexaholics Anonymous speaker meeting that took place in June of 2023. This YouTube channel is not affiliated in any way with Sexaholics Anonymous. For more information, please see sa.org. Thanks, Tom. Good morning, everyone. We're Grateful Sexaholic. And Tom asked me to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I think my topic is going to be love. Because so today I'm celebrating 13 years sobriety in S.A. And I, looking back, could not have gotten sober and stayed sober without the love and support of people in this program. Sometimes there was people that I developed long-term relationships with. Sometimes there's people that I met at one meeting, don't remember who they are or don't know where they are today. I was thinking, so when we were checking in, Tom asked me if I would talk, like at the beginning of the meeting. I was like, oh, I better think of something to say, and then I remembered that I was taught that's not how we do it. It's God's talk and it's God's meeting, and I just pray and ask God to speak through me. The only preparation that I did to share today is that when Tom asked me to speak, I made sure to get some extra coffee. So I've refilled my cup now 3 times. Yeah, because me without coffee, you know what I mean? It's like, oh man, even God's not going to help me there. You got to get the caffeine going. And someone once told me, share at every meeting like there's someone in the room that's at his first meeting. Like, what are you going to say if someone's at his first meeting? And I've been trying to do that ever since I heard that. So when we checked in today, and we have people here today who are new or coming back, who are struggling, it helped me remember that, I could celebrate and I could share and we could have a great time this morning and have good coffee, but we're here to carry a message. We have a meeting so that newcomers may find a message of hope, and I hope I can carry that today. When I think of 13 years of sobriety, the first person I ever met who had 13 years of sobriety was a guy in AA. So what happened was, I went to my first S.A. meeting in November of 2009, and it was an interesting experience because basically I came to the meeting and there were definitely people at the meeting who were sober, but it wasn't so clear how that happened. Like, they claimed to have not been sober before and they are sober now. So I figured I would come to meetings and I'd be sober too. So I came to meetings and I didn't get sober also. So the rest of the group seemed to have been getting more sober and I was getting less sober. So there was this guy, some of you might remember, he used to drive in from Long Branch, interesting fellow, sexaholic, alcoholic, drug addict, whatever. And he says to me, I'm going to take you to an AA meeting in Eatontown. And it's a closed meeting, so don't tell them you're a sexaholic. Just say you're an alcoholic. And and whenever they say alcohol, just think sex or lust, and then it'll all make sense. So he takes me to this meeting in Eatontown, and I had a hard time translating alcohol into sexaholism because, totally not related to S.A., but when they were talking about alcohol, it was making perfect sense with alcohol. I was like, wait, I drink like they drink. And I did eventually become a proud card-carrying member of the liquid program. But at that meeting, a guy celebrated 13 years of sobriety. And this was fantastic. They call up an old-timer to give the pin or the chip to this guy. Let's say the guy's name was Gary. So the sponsor says, Gary, it means so much to me. Excuse me, it means so much to me that you haven't drank this year. Because as long as you stay sober, At least we'll get to see you once a year when you come to pick up your chip.
Whoa.
I'm thinking, wow, okay. I'm glad I'm not part of this program. And apparently, Gary was staying sober and coming to AA meetings once a year to pick up his chip. And in between, nobody saw him, and they didn't mind telling him that they noticed. That was the first time that I was exposed to someone sober that long. I remember when we used to go Wednesday nights to Metuchen, there were a couple of guys that would come in and out. I don't remember how long they were all sober for, but if it was over 10, I couldn't believe it. It was like, this guy's got like 10 years of sobriety. Here and locally, there was no one, I don't think, who had that long sobriety. And it wasn't even like a dream, like, oh, one day I'll have 10 years of sobriety. It was just this really cool thing that I sat at a meeting with people like that, you know? But I do remember, in a short amount of time, realizing that I'm not gonna be sober. And somehow you guys who are sober have this luck or this brains or this, I don't know what it was, something that you have that I can't have, because I think I'm trying to do the things you're telling me to do. I think I am. And I'll tell you what those things were. I was going to more than one meeting a day. Sometimes I was going to more than 2 meetings a day. I was making more than 1 phone call a day. I was making more than 5 phone calls a day. I was making more than 10 phone calls a day. You told me make this program first. I really thought I was doing that. I was making a lot of phone calls. I was listening to AA speakers on CD, S.A speakers on CD. I flew to Chicago for an S.A international convention with my wife. That's the first time I met people in S.A who had long sobriety. Oh, this is great. I got to tell you about that convention. So they had a birthday celebration. And that was also the first time I was ever at an S.A event that was mixed, men and women, right? So I casually and very innocently sit down next to one of the women in that room and start chatting up with her. And my brain was off in like fantasy. Like, we're not going to act out. We're just going to have a great relationship. And she wasn't like standoffish, but like, she was just being very cordial. And anyway, they're calling people up onto the stage to get their chips. And then when they called up anyone who had recently celebrated 12 years of sobriety, she stood up to go get her chip. I was like, I barked up the wrong tree. Oh man. I tried. I thought I was doing everything being told to me to do, and when I think about the love, there's 2 sides to that coin, and this is a controversial subject, but there were people at that time who, let's just say, I'm going to trust them that they were showing love. They weren't doing it in a way that felt loving, and they claimed it was this thing called tough love. I still wonder about that and think that I get the tough part. It still feels like code word for I get to bully you and call it whatever I want because you're not sober and I can get away with it. I'm not saying that's for sure what it is. I'm just claiming that's what it felt like, and I haven't changed my mind yet. When you get older, you'll understand. Your mother ever told you that? I got older and I still don't understand. That's just my experience, okay? And then there were people who did the love part. Shia was one of those people. Shmuel was one of those people. Eli lives in Passaic was one of those people. Zevi, those are the guys I'm thinking of who, even if I just relapsed, they didn't sit and engage like, oh, tell me about it. Like, I'll say one thing. I would call Eli G, and he would say, like, you got to call me, like, when you're acting out. So I just finished acting out, and I was sitting in a parking lot, and I called him. I said, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing what you said. I'm making a phone call. I just acted out. He said, so what do you want me to do about it? I was like, what do you mean? You said make a phone call. He said, you're calling me after you acted out. He goes, I know why you're calling me, because you feel bad and you want to dump it on me so you can go on home and not feel bad about it. I was like, what? He said, why didn't you call me before you act out? I was like, nah. Nah. And I don't know why. That didn't feel like tough love. That just felt like love, honest. He stayed on the phone, we talked, but like he didn't say like, call me back when you're a month sober. He just was saying like, there's not much we can do when you're on your way home from a strip club, you know? Mm-hmm. I remember coming home from therapy and getting into fistfights with my wife in the car, and getting out of the car and walking down the Garden State Parkway while my wife is driving along. Get in the car, get in the car. And Zevi would take my calls, and he would walk me back into my car and tell me what I should or shouldn't say. Those were helpful. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know how to live. I remember calling Shia one holiday, Passover. I was separated. My wife was in Connecticut. I was in New Jersey, and I couldn't sleep because the what was that black box that plugged into the computer? The what? The modem. Remember when it was all plug-in, and it was blinking green, and it was so triggering, that green blinking thing. And I called him, and he's like, put your computer in your trunk. And he stayed on the phone. Do you remember this? I put my computer in my trunk. And I came back in my house, but the thing is, the black box was still blinking green. I was like, I can't do it. He's like, why don't you put the black box in your trunk? And I, if he would have been like, you're an idiot, just I'm blocking your number, maybe I wouldn't be sober today. I don't know. So I unplugged the black modem, and I put it in my trunk. I was like a little kid who needed like a little nanny, like to sing good night, little baby. That was like me, and I got to go to sleep that night. And I got to speak to someone recently who was starting to stay sober a little for the first time, and then he relapsed. I think I just spoke to him on Friday. It wasn't Friday. I said to him, keep doing what you're doing, and don't give up, because it might not look like it's working long term, but it's working short term. And I know for me, all these little things started clicking into gear at some point, and it's a funny thing that my sobriety date is June 21st of 2010, because it's not really the day I got sober. Like, I guess whenever the next relapse should be my sobriety date. I just don't know when that is. So I like go, it's like, I don't know if you know how this works. Like when a woman wants to know how long she's pregnant, they don't know exactly the moment. Well, she might, but the doctor just goes back to her last period, like that's her date. So I just go back to my last relapse, and I should really call it the last time I acted out date. It's not really a sobriety date. I haven't acted out again yet since the morning of June 21st of 2010. And someone told me to put, don't try to schedule S.A. into my work, to my life. Try to schedule my life into S.A. And that's been working for me. So I still feel like I do as much S.A. as I can. If I'm driving late at night and my family's sleeping, I'll put on headphones and I'll listen to a speaker. And I've shared this recently. My wife said, oh, what are you listening to? I said, I'm listening to Earl H., which is a CD my sponsor gave me in March of 2010. I probably listened to that CD 100 times, if not more. And she said, how many times can you listen to the same talk? I said, I guess as many times as I called phone sex. That's what I told her. And she said two things. She said, I'm sorry for asking. And she also said, I guess that's a good trade. I'll finish with this, because I don't know where I'm at with time. But what did I think I was going to finish with? My God. I don't know what I was about to say. I have a memory of how much effort I put into my addiction. And sometimes when I'm not sure how much effort I should put into my recovery, I think about like what I would do if it was an acting out opportunity. And that's a tough act to follow because I really believe today that there's no lengths I'm not willing to go to act out. When I'm ready to act out, when I'm in acting out, I really don't think there's a lengths I'm not willing to go. So if there's a lengths I'm not willing to go for recovery, then it's a mismatch. It's just a mismatch. It means I've got this disease on one side and I'm willing to go to any lengths to feed that. And then I've got this recovery on this side and I'm not willing to go to any lengths to feed that. How's recovery going to come out on top? I just don't see how the math adds up. So I think that's one thing that I was able to make a commitment many years ago when I didn't think I'd ever be sober. The commitment was, if I never get sober, it's going to be God that didn't let me have it, not me who didn't put in the effort necessary. So I'm going to put in the effort whether I ever get sober or not. That's my end of the deal. And the outcome of that is going to be God's business. And when my wife would confront me in therapy or people, I would say the only promise I think I can make is that I'm never going to give up and I'm going to keep trying as long as I live. And that's, I don't think I'm powerless over that. I think that's a promise that I've been able to keep from that day to this. And that's still a promise I plan on keeping because, like everyone loves to say when they celebrate, make sure we all know that it's not the perfect sobriety and that as if we all need to, like, oh, I thought it was. Like, we all know that, you know? I'm not going to say that. What I'll say is that even though it's not, I think what I've done perfectly is I've perfectly kept trying my best as I can each day. And that's something I'll continue to try to do until this game is over, right? Okay, thanks for letting me share. Appreciate it.